I've chosen this particular scripture because there's a great deal that's stated in here about, you know, the lightning in the east seen in the west and all of that stuff. And there's tribulation after the days. The sun shall be darkened and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from the heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And there you go. I know that in my personal world, that at the point of time that I had an inner awakening, I know that whatever my sun was at the time and whatever my moon was at the time was severely shaken. And I know that whatever the stars were that I held in my personal heaven fell from the sky. In fact, my entire life changed as a result of that experience. And so again, the sun is that which you hold in highest esteem at the moment, that you think is so wonderful and so great that you cannot exist without. And unless that is God or the pursuit of the kingdom within you, you've got the wrong sun in your eyes. And the moon's its companion. And once you get the things straight in your head, those things fall quickly and no longer hold that importance in your kingdom within. We create our own world. And the stars that we have there, all those little thoughts and those wonderful ideas and those things that we have for accomplishing, doing, our interactions with our fellow man, all those things fall. Because something has been awakened that shows something of a much greater magnitude, a much larger proportion. And at that point begins the reconstruction of your inner being. And at whatever point that occurs in your life, and it will occur for all of us, whether this round of body or the next, whatever point that is, we will rebuild the new kingdom, the new Jerusalem, so to speak. And that is the point within us. It's not some city of gold that we're going to magically appear at some point. In my Father's house are many mansions. Each of us creates our own mansion at that point, tempered with truth, not with the unreal, but the real world. Love, peace, harmony, joy. And we get to live through all of the misconceptions and misideas that we've created for ourselves up to that period of time. And one by one, we get to figure out the way to let them go and let them not have power over us anymore. And to me, one of the most interesting things that's happened along the way is this experience has gone on in my life is the number of people that have gone before me that have said this same thing, either in prose or in writings or in songs, that I never saw before. But it's now clearly there, and it's clearly the experience that they're talking about. And the result of that always is freedom. There's an incredible freedom of not being bound to the shackles of this world. And we may not know the full experience of where our life leads. And you know what? We don't even plan it out. What happens is we become on this new journey to find the fullest expression of love that we can possibly find in our being. And where that leads is what we end up with. And we don't design it. We don't create the blueprint of what we think it ought to be. We let it go. We leave it out of our life. and we supplant every one of these cares and worries that we have with some other thing called truth. And we stick to that. And all of the tribulations along the way are all of our tests. All of those little things that pull us from that inner peace, that inner joy. And I know that it's a bit silly, but Ken called me yesterday talking about all the fires that are on the news, and you know, he really aptly coined it at the time because I had no knowledge of them and didn't care, and he said, well, I guess you're living up to the reality in your world, everything's good. But out here it's a mess. And that's the truth of it. That's exactly what was going on. And I did tune in a little bit and went through the major stations to see how each one was covering it differently, and you know, kept finding the Yorba Linda or whatever fires, and you know, yeah, that's going on out there. And all I can say is in everyone's particular world, they've brought that in one way or another. And that is a reality. So in our world, we need to create abundance, love, peace, harmony, joy. It is our world. It is your world. So going on in the scripture here, and it says, the Son of Man is coming in clouds of heaven with power and great glory. You cannot, and I don't think anybody ever can possibly realize when an inner awakening happens as to the truth of the Christ within us, and we don't recognize at that moment the power there is behind that. It's a definite aha experience, it's an awakening, but as we come out of the experience and we look at our world didn't magically change at that moment. It did, we just didn't know that it changed at that moment. We were still living in the same basement or same one-room apartment and still had the same neighbors pounding on the door complaining about whatever they were complaining about. But the method of dealing with that and the method of looking at that begins to change. And as we continue to spend time on the inner realm, building, you know, and I just call them virtues, the virtues of love and peace and harmony and joy, as we continue building those, over the course of time, the outpouring of that supplants everything that we have up to that point created in our life. And it just doesn't happen in the twinkling of an eye. It happens over time. And the biggest experience that we can happen is, once it happens, is to embrace it as completely as we can. And the problem with most of us is we find the inability to embrace it fully at that moment, because we are the instant gratification generation. We want everything at this moment. So when I walk into the darkened room and turn on the light, I want whatever rubble heap was there to be gone, and there this be pile of gold sitting there so that I can move forward. Well, the truth of the matter is over time that rubble heap leaves and the pile of gold does start to accumulate, depending on your use of it, because you now have other responsibilities